with where you're getting your source of information from, right? Are you ready for what's about to take place in your own personal economy based on what's happening? And why is this relevant to us as American investors and people that live in America? It goes up when the Fed funds rate goes up, then now that interest rate you pay for that vehicle is going to be 8 or 9. And he went on to sort of indicate that the Fed is probably going to lower rates a little bit, probably high anymore, and inflation just being the rate at which prices. He said that the Fed was not in a hurry to make a move and lower the Fed funds rate. But the one thing he did mention on many occasions throughout the day, and it was on purpose, because let me explain something to you about the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a propaganda machine. Yet tariff, they're really trying to send a message to a...
Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
Breaking news, a nation...
Welcome to the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. I scour the internet and look for things that I think might be interesting to some of the viewers and the people that listen to me on iHeartRadio. I ran across 2 clips. One was a unknown YouTuber, and sometimes you can get good information from people that are virtually unknown in these spaces. The other was a clip of Sam Cedar and this white Christian woman, and I'm gonna explain to you the pattern in this, because you know I like to talk about the pattern in a lot of things that go on here in America. And if you miss the pattern, it can mean life or death. If you miss the pattern, it can mean economic strife for you and your family. And I've been talking about how a lot of these people that's involved in Maga are bigots, are not all of these people are bigots, but the main power behind them have a lot of hatred and bigotry in their hearts. And then they have the minority stepping stools. You know, they got the few minorities that roll with them. These are the ones who are what we call the gatekeepers. But stick around towards the end of the show. You're gonna hear from a white Christian woman when she debates Sam Cedar and how MAGA truly feels. This is a prime example of fuck around and find out. These people voted Donald Trump in office again because of bigotry and because they're tired of the Democrat Party focusing on social issues. But then when he gets in there, the economy tanks. So basically what you got going on in America is you got 2-party. It's always been a 2-party system. You got other parties out there. The Green Party is one, but they're not making no noise. The Democrats and the Republicans, the Democrats are about money for the wealthy, hoping that it would trickle down to you. And then the Democrats are about social issues, the gay issue, the abortion issue, women's rights issues, save the trees. People are tired of that. But they don't want the economy messed up. So it's either one or the other. It's either you're going to be about social issues with the Democrats, or you're going to tank the economy with the Republicans. And what usually happens when in the pattern, because the government moves slow. The things that Donald Trump is doing right now is not going to have full effect on us until the Democrats take over office again. usually the next election. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of people blaming the Democrats on all the messed up things that's happening in the economy. The economy is being wrecked right now. Not 4 years from now. The economy is being wrecked right now. So we're finna get into the show. And first off, we want to talk about this guy who I ran across. He's basically telling you the truth about the feds. The feds are the ones who make the American dollar, who raise or lower interest rates, who basically is in charge of our economy. And the Federal Reserve, these people have been warning America. They can't say too much because they don't want to completely tank the economy. Because sometimes, by me being in stocks for so long now, I finally seen that people can actually trade and buy stocks off of what the Federal Reserve say, off of news. And the Federal Reserve don't want to tank the economy, but they want to warn you, be ready, because it's coming. We finna have another recession, and it's gonna be bad. Let's get into the show.
The Daily Read, your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
Breaking news, a nationwide movement protesting the actions of President Donald Trump makes a stop in Raleigh.
Yeah, organizers are calling for 50 states, 50 protests against Project 2025. WRL's Eric Miller is live in downtown Raleigh with some background on this anti-Trump movement. Eric.
Well, Jeff, this protest has been growing rapidly just within the last 30 minutes, and you can see it's now spilled onto either side of Morgan Street here outside of the historic state capitol. More than 100 protesters here marching, waving signs. This group protesting President Trump, and in particular Elon Musk. Folks calling for his deportation and many of the actions that Musk and Trump have taken here in the first several weeks of Trump's second term in office. As you said, Jeff.
Now, I'm going to start here with the protests. These are the fuck around and find out crowd. Half of that crowd right there probably voted for Trump. You got to understand, they're tired of the Democrats and their self-righteous, holier than thou push to be involved in every social issue that comes across the safe spaces out here. But they don't want the economy to tank. Then you got this foreign national who's a South African who is running around our government, getting involved in opening up secrets, opening up government files, and there's no telling what this man is copying. There's no telling what this man is putting on thumb drives. And it's going to show up later on, maybe 10 years from now, maybe 15 years from now, 5 years from now. You're not going to see it right away because the feds are going to be watching him. But you can best believe that a lot of our government secrets are going to wind up in the hands of foreigners. Let's continue on.
This organized by the 50-51 movement. This movement,
Stay in tune with what's going on. Be careful with where you're getting your source of information.
Now this guy right here, I ran across his YouTube channel because he articulates what the Federal Reserve is doing very well. You got to listen to his words and understand what he's saying, because believe me, people, they're going to keep things low as long as they can. But within another year, Donald Trump has almost 3 more years left in office. Within another year, because of the tariffs, everything is going to skyrocket. And it's going to lead right into the next election with the Democrats. And then you're going to have a recession. The economy is going to tank. The stock market is going to crash. And everybody's going to blame the Democrats. I'm not saying they're perfect. They do get involved in a lot of social issues that don't need to even be messed with, which is why a lot of people are mad. But trust and believe the economy tanking is not going to be their fault. Listen to what this man has to say.
Right? Because if you watch Fox News, it's going to give you one way. If you watch ABC, CBS, CNN, they're going to give you something totally different, because it's all propaganda, right? Everybody has an agenda nowadays. Instead of telling us what's going on, they tell us what to think about what's going on based on how they present the information. So guys, the question is, are you ready for what's about to take place in the American economy? And when I say the American economy, I'm talking about, are you ready for what's about to take place in your own personal economy based on what's happening in the overall broad American economy? And I asked that question today because we just had the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, which is the arm of the Federal Reserve who makes a decision about the Fed funds rate. And they have 8 or 9 meetings a year. And typically those are 2-day meetings. At the end of the second day is when they come out, and the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, he comes out and gives his spiel for 5 or 10 minutes to the press, and then he answers questions for 30 minutes, and they talk about what they're going to do with the Fed funds rate. Now, why?
This is important, people. And the reason why this is important is because when Jerome Powell comes out and talks about certain things involving the economy, he can't say certain things because the economy can tank on his words. Not because he's some kind of powerful God, but because you got people in the stock market who makes the market move up or down depending on what they hear in the news. So the things when it comes to tariffs and what Donald Trump is doing and how the Federal Reserve is trying to keep interest rates low and stuff like that, he got to be very careful about what he's saying. He knows that a recession is coming, and he's trying to warn you people to get ready.
Is this relevant to us as American investors and people that live in America? Let's talk about what the Fed funds rate is. The Fed funds rate is basically the interest rate that banks charge one another for overnight lending to each other. Now, when that interest rate goes up, then the rate that banks charge us as consumers for short-term loans, it goes up, right? Because the bank's going to make their money. So when they have to pay a higher interest to each other, they carry that higher interest over to us, and it ends up being higher interest that we have to pay on loans. So when the Fed funds rate goes up, the loan that you were going to pay for that vehicle might have been 6%, but when it goes up, when the Fed funds rate goes up, then now that interest rate you pay for that vehicle is going to be 8 or 9%. So that car loan is going to be higher when the Fed raises interest rates, raises the Fed funds rate. Now, when they lower the Fed funds rate, the interest that we pay the bank is going to be lower, right? So this really matters for us, right? What they do with the Fed funds rate. So today, the chairman, Jerome Powell, came out and he said that they are keeping the interest rates where they are, between 4.25% and 4.5%.
And that helps the economy. That ensures that investors in the stock market maintain their investments. But what he's trying to tell you people that are invested in the stock market, what he's trying to tell you is, get it together, because a recession is coming because of the tariffs. He's going to have to raise interest rates, which is going to cause everything in America, prices to shoot up. Eggs, milk, cars, clothes, everything is going to be higher.
Also said the Fed is not in a hurry to lower rates based on the overall economic conditions that they see. I think he mentioned the labor market is still fairly low in terms of unemployment at 4.1%. I think he also mentioned that the close of last year saw the GDP still up over 2%. In other words, overall economic growth still over 2%. And he went on to sort of indicate that the Fed is probably going to lower rates a little bit, 2 times at least this year. And so that hasn't changed. So really, the
Now, when he said lower rates 2 times this year, he's trying to ensure investors that it's safe right now to invest. But once those tariffs hit, it's going to be crazy.
being indicated that not a whole lot has changed. But the one thing he said during the meeting that should be of concern for all of us is the fact that, yeah, inflation is not horribly high anymore, and inflation just being the rate at which prices go up. I think he said total PCE was at 2.6%, and the core PCE is at 2.8%. By the way, the total PCE inflation is everything, right? The whole big basket of goods. But the core PCE inflation, which is what the Fed really focuses on more than anything, is everything except for energy and food. They take out energy and food, and that's still at 2.8%.
Now, I gotta say something about this, people. You got to understand this. The government moves so slow that a lot of this stuff he's talking about came from Joe Biden. Donald Trump just got in office. You got to understand this. You got to connect the dots, because some of this stuff in government is being blamed on other people that it shouldn't be blamed on. A lot of these low interest rates he's talking about came from Joe Biden. But now, with Trump in office, because of whatever social bigotry or whatever they got going on in the American societies, he's about to tank all of this with these tariffs. Let's get back into it.
They wanted us to be, the Fed wanted us to be down at 2%, right? So he indicated that because inflation is not ticking up crazy, but inflation is also not quite at that 2% place that they wanted it to be, that everything was moving along okay in terms of our economy, right? So jobs, inflation, GDP growth, unemployment, all those things are pretty stable. He said that the Fed was not in a hurry to make a move and lower the Fed funds rate. But the one thing he did mention on many occasions throughout the day, and it was on purpose, because let me explain something to you about the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a propaganda machine. They have to make sure that what they say is very carefully orchestrated, because they know that the whole economy can sometimes hinge on what they say in these meetings and what the Fed Chair Jerome Powell reports out, right? So he very carefully and methodically made sure to mention on many occasions today tariffs. And the more he talked about tariffs, the more it gave me an indication that, okay, they're really looking at tariff. They're really trying to send a message to Americans about tariffs and about the potential problems that tariffs could cause in terms of the economy. So basically what I'm saying is this.
Let me give you a story before he end what he's going to say. When I first started driving trucks about 12 years ago, I was at a truck company sitting in orientation, and one of the head men in orientation showed us a video of a truck driver driving 30 miles an hour, and a white guy on a bike jumped out in front of him, and he swerved all over the place. He paused the video and he told everybody in that classroom, and this is what I want to, and I'm warning you people about jumping out in front of trucks, because we are trained to try our best to stop, to minimize the damage, but we are not trained to swerve around you. This is what the man said. He said, when you're in a situation like that, if it's an old lady and two of her kids driving in a car next to you, and a dumbass bicycle driver jumps out in front of you, and you swerve over to miss him and hit that old lady in that car to avoid that bike driver, and you kill that old lady, we're gonna fire you and you might go to jail. He said if you swerve to the right to avoid the bike driver and tear up a whole bunch of millions of dollars worth of damage to the viaduct, we're gonna fire you and you might get charged with state charges for tearing up their property. He said the best thing you can do in a situation like this to avoid tearing up other stuff and killing other people because of a stupid bike driver, he said if a deer jumped out in front of you, you put on the brakes, stop as best you can, and run him over. Notice what he said. He said if a deer run out in front of you, and I looked at the lady, it was a truck driver lady sitting next to me, and it was a truck driver guy on the other side of me, and we was all watching this video. I looked at the lady, I said, he's not talking about no deer, is he? She said, no, I don't think he's talking about no deer. He had to craft what he said carefully because he didn't want to seem like an asshole telling truck drivers to just run people over. What he was trying to tell you in so many words is, don't kill this old lady driving on the side of you by trying to avoid a stupid bike driver that jumped out in front of you. Don't tear up all of this property on the right side of you by swerving, trying to avoid this guy. Hit your brakes as best you can and run him over if you got to. Try to stop from killing him, but if you can't, run his ass over. Stop the truck, and when the police come, they can see that you avoid killing somebody. You killed him, he's dead, but you avoid all this other stuff. He was the one jumped out in front of you on the bicycle. This is, and I know that's a crazy story. I love giving you guys my stories. But the man is trying to explain to you that the feds have to craft their message to you carefully to let you know that a recession is coming. It's coming because of the tariffs. He's trying to assure you right now that everything is cool, everything's going along as planned, interest rates are low, but the tariffs. And the thing that I really don't like about the pattern I see in this is a lot of my people who are not in tune with the pattern or not in tune with, my people are more worried about Just Hilarious getting fired from the Breakfast Club. My people are more worried about Vivica Fox getting the BBL. I did that show last week. This is what we need to be concerned about right here. Let's get back into it.
Are you ready for the fact that these tariffs that has already been sort of in place on I think there's already steel and aluminum tariffs going on, but are you ready for these tariffs to have a large impact on inflation? Listen, otherwise, the chairman Jerome Powell, he wouldn't have came out and talked about tariffs so intently if he's not trying to say and prepare you and me for the fact that these tariffs are going to have an effect on inflation. Tariffs will raise prices, at least temporarily, on everything. And when I say everything, I mean almost everything. So while the Fed is looking at inflation, and the Fed is looking at unemployment and labor, and the Fed is looking at all these other factors, they want on the forefront of our minds the fact that tariffs are going to have a major impact on inflation. And you might be saying, well, how do you know that?
But it's not on the forefront of our minds. We trying to just get rid of Mexicans and foreigners.
Well, I know it because he mentioned it and he talked about it and he made a point to say that tariffs will have an effect on inflation. He made a point to say it. The Fed doesn't make a point to say anything unless they're trying to get in our heads for some reason or another. The Fed chair. Hey, Sam.
This video right here, people, I'm going to get into in a second. But I want to get into my movie review. Because like I promised, I was going to bring interesting movies that I think you should check out. This new Stephen King movie, The Monkey, it is fantastic. I stopped liking I read this short story. It's a short story called The Monkey. I read this a long time ago. And there were three authors that really was at the forefront of me wanting to read, me wanting to write books. But I look at entertainment as entertainment. I don't want to see a movie about a drug kingpin or a drug queenpin who's a struggling mother who starts rocking up cocaine in her kitchen. I don't want to see that. I want to see Sigourney Weaver go down in the basement where the aliens at and save Newt. That's entertainment. That's entertainment. And I'm into the horror scene. I'm into anime. I've been binge watching One Piece, which is a good anime. I think a lot of people need to watch it. It's pretty good. I've been binge watching anime. I'm into the horror. I'm into the sci-fi. And I used to read a lot of horror books. I liked Stephen King when I read the book Stephen King's It. I loved it. But I stopped reading Stephen King when he started that book called From a Buick 8. I don't know if how many of my listeners in Radio Land have heard about this book called From a Buick 8. And it's really a story about a portal in the trunk of an old Buick. And the story is really centered around state troopers. I didn't like it. And it wasn't the usual Stephen King stuff. It was like he was trying to do a favor for somebody and write a book about one of his favorite state troopers. I don't know. But Stephen King went into that process of going from a very interesting horror writer to mediocre. Dean Koontz. A lot of you people need to read Dean Koontz. He has a lot of great books. Some people call Dean Koontz the Walmart version of Stephen King. But I beg to differ. I think Dean Koontz is a force of nature in his own right. R.A. Salvatore, for those of you who like to read science fiction, Isaac Asimov is pretty good too. But let's get into the movie review.
was time. There was nothing.
This movie, The Monkey, is hilarious. And it has a lot of gory scenes in it. It's one of those horror films where if you like the gore, you'll love this movie. It also has a lot of major twists towards the end that I really didn't see coming. But it gets kind of campy. And I don't know if you understand what campy means, but like, how can I explain it? The first half of the movie starts off intense, okay? Like a real horror movie. And then once these guys get older as adults, the movie kind of turns into a horror / comedy. It's strange, but it's an overall good movie. And I really recommend this movie. You know, Stephen King could have, whoever did this movie, I think they could have did a little better towards the end of the movie. The pool scene was hilarious, but at the same time gory. That was crazy. I'm not going to spoil the movie for you, like giving you the premise of it, but trust me, people, if I review a movie on here and tell you to go see it, you need to check this movie out. And the mom, oh my God, the stuff she says to her kids is crazy. But overall, you guys need to give. I give this movie a 2 thumbs up. We're gonna leave it at that. Go check it out, The Monkey. Now let's get back to the show, because
The Daily Read.
we need to get into the second half of this show and talk about how these MAGA people really feel and why they put Donald Trump back in office. This is going to trigger some of you, but it shouldn't, because if you've learned anything from watching me, it's starting up 2 things. Starting up a podcast is not easy. That's number 1. Number 2, when you bring things like this to the people, a lot of people are going to reject it and say, nah, that's not true. It is true. A lot of these people feel this way, which is why they put Donald Trump back in office. The problem is they didn't think Donald Trump was going to tank the economy. I don't see how they couldn't have thought that, because everything is tied together. Bigotry is tied to the economy, because this country was founded off of slave labor and snatching land from the Indians. So all of this stuff is tied to the economy. So when you got the Democrats in office preaching about social issues, you don't like it, because it makes you look at yourself on the social issue part. So you say, I'm finna put the Republicans back in office. Then when you put them back in office, and you don't have to worry about the young girl down the street getting an abortion no more. You don't have to worry about gay men going into a female bathroom no more. But now the price of eggs done went up, and you like, man, what the hell is going on? You finna understand it here in a second. Let's get back into the video.
Sam.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely. And
Sorry, did you get that so far? The
Liberal world order. This is something new. It's supposed to be new world order. She trying to blame it on the liberals.
World order.
Jesus.
They've dropped the new, our liberal world order.
I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now is just
congratulations.
And thank you. And yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children.
This girl in the background here does not like what her fellow conservative is saying. There's one point that she puts her head in her hands based on the answer that comes out of this lady's mouth. Now, the other thing to let you know, Jubilee does this thing, is that when you get voted out, so see in the bottom left-hand corner, it says 2 out of 20. That means there's 2 flags up. Once it gets to 11, the person talking has to leave the seat no matter what. This is how they sort of play the game.
Children dying by abortion. People aren't even reproducing. We don't even have like a...
Should we mandate people reproduce?
Now, when she's saying people are not reproducing, she's talking about white people. Black people are reproducing like crazy. I'm sorry, people. Yes, you got blacks that get abortions, but black people are reproducing. Mexicans are reproducing. White people are the ones who are not reproducing in America. I talked about this on show maybe 100, maybe 2 years ago, where I was telling you about how white people in our society, matter of fact, I remember that show because I talked about how Ronald Reagan had a man in his office talking about what could we do to solve the problem with low birth rates, because at the rate we're going, minorities are going to be the majority. And people didn't understand that. They thought I was just on here ranting and raving about bigotry when there is no bigotry. You know, you got a lot of black people that say some shit like that. Like, yeah, ain't no bigotry, man. Just get some money. Which is true. Get some money and even the bigots will like you. But what I'm saying is, these people are concerned that they're going to be outnumbered. And they're not going to be the total power in this country. Listen carefully. Pay attention.
No, I don't think we need to mandate. We can just stop them from killing their kids.
You want to outlaw abortion?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, we have a fundamental disagreement on this, and my claim was that if you voted for Trump, it would be to your benefit if you want to outlaw abortion.
I think it would benefit everyone.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that that women should have the right to choose.
I think that it would benefit everyone to bring back the family unit, to stop having women just thrown into the workforce.
Maybe we shouldn't allow women to choose to divorce unless their husbands say it's okay.
I mean, I don't really believe in divorce in general, so, like, sure.
All right, I mean, this I think, though, reinforces my point that...
It gets worse. It gets worse. I'm sorry, it gets worse.
That if you are...
But it would be better for society. It would be better for everybody in society. And same with xenophobic national. Like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Do you think that's better for Americans in general? Like,
This is where it gets crazy, people. This is where it gets crazy. And trust me, and when I say this is what a lot of the MAGA people have in their hearts. They feel like this is a white country, white European country, Christian country, and if you don't assimilate to us and how we believe and how we do things, we don't want you here. They don't like when Mexicans speak their own language in their own neighborhoods, in their own households. They don't like it when they see a car drive by with a Puerto Rican flag in the window. I don't give a shit about that. A melting pot doesn't mean you melt down and become like them. A melting pot means you throw a lot of people in it and then something new comes out. That's what a melting pot is. You got your potatoes, you got your carrots, you know, you got your you got your gravy, you got all of this stuff, your meat, you put it in a melting pot. And what comes out is not everybody conforming to the meat. We turn into something different than Europe, than Asia. These people ain't getting that. They don't want to get that. This is why we got Trump again. Go ahead.
You see the head in the hands. You got to see the head in the hands again. Xenophobic Christian nationalism is better in general.
Like, what's the problem with xenophobic nationalism? Do you think that's better for Americans in general? Like,
Oh my
Xenophobic
yes.
nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture
What is the
based on
dominant
European and Christian values and identity.
Listen what she just said. We already have a dominant culture. This is what's not being said. This is why you got gatekeepers. These people right here, this woman right here and her people, not all whites believe in this, but so many of them do that they affect the rest of them. They feel like they're the dominant culture. They go out and get a few blacks to suppress everybody else up under them. They get out and go get a few Latinos, make them gatekeepers over the Latino community, and suppress everybody up under them. This is how you get the gatekeepers. Because the gatekeepers are protecting women like her. You got to connect the dots. You got to see what the pattern is.
The dominant culture is rooted in European identity.
White, so your argument is that
That has been the dominant culture.
Just to be
and
clear.
we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture's so divided.
your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted.
Trump is good for a dominant white European culture, and she says yes, and that's why she's woken up to be the face of white supremacy today. I'm not finished yet, Drew. There's a bit more to go. What is it again?
Oh, there's more.
There's more. It's a couple more,
Yeah,
90
hey.
seconds more, because at the end Sam wraps up with basically going, I think you've done the job for me. I don't know if you can hear it. Either there's a murmur in the room, and normally there's no murmur. They just wait, and the room is not with her, unfortunately for her.
in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then if that's not the identity of America?
Well, I think the identity of
For the
America...
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, maybe since like the 1960s. Even then, even we had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that not what melting means?
No, just by definition, no. If you put a whole bunch of ingredients together, even if you have twice as much sugar as anything else, it doesn't all become sugar. The melting pot, you put all these ingredients together and they all become sugar. They make a new product. They make a new product is what they do. That's the idea of melting.
And now instead we're saying there's something wrong with xenophobia.
Culture. No. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice. And people, I think what you're expressing, though, is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about.
Yep.
And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social
So you don't think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to pour a bunch of H-1Bs. Are you kidding?
Right. Oh, so you want to get them out too? Yeah. No, I think you're making my argument for me.
All right. Well, okay.
I want to end it right there. I'm not going to get to any other students, but basically, I played those two clips because I found those two interesting this week. the whole thing about the feds wanting to keep the interest rates low, I get it. But you got to understand that the government moves slow when it comes to economics, because America is one of the largest economic countries in the world. You can't just move fast. If a country with the biggest economics in the world moves fast, that means something's wrong. If Donald Trump did something today that tanked the economy tomorrow or next month, something is wrong. He needs to get out of there. Changes that happen in government takes at least 2 to 3 years to happen. So if we jump into a recession within the next year, that's Donald Trump's fault, not the Democrats. You can't blame this on Biden. And it's going to be worse when the Democrats get in there, because they're still going to be around here talking about social issues, trying to fix the economy at the same time. Can't do both, because you're going to be getting pushback on the social stuff while you're trying to fight the Republicans on the economy stuff. Can't do both. Most people don't understand that if your personal economics get right, all the social issues you ain't even gonna care about. If I'm a multi-millionaire, what I care about young Dahlia down the street having an abortion? I don't care nothing about that. That's not my business. If I'm a millionaire, and even in a recession, I got a chicken in my pot, because that's how everything goes down. Millionaires eat steak, middle class eat chicken, lower class eat soup. So what happens is, when the recession hit, millionaires still have chicken. Middle class eat soup. Lower class, they eat Chex Mix and oodles and noodles. That's how it plays. So if you're a multi-millionaire, man, I don't care nothing about Joe Blow down the street getting messed up. It's not my business. The only people that care about social issues, it seems, are poor people. And the reason why is because it takes $10,000 to get a lawyer. Poor people don't have that money to go get a lawyer. So if you're poor, you care about social justice, because social justice is the only way you're going to get justice. You're not going to get justice when you're poor. But if you're a rich NFL league manager's son, and somebody do something to you, you can go get a lawyer, sue him, air it out in public, all of that. Poor people care about violence, because that's the only way they have to get justice. Poor people care about violence. Rich people don't care about violence, because if you come at me, I'm so rich I got a bodyguard. He gonna knock you out or shoot you. I hope y'all learned something from today, man, especially with the feds and how Maga really thinks about what's going on in America. This is the Daily Read, and I'm out.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Business.